Welcome, everyone. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today to talk about a conversation that is top of mind and front of mind. It's not the first time that ASID and BIFMA have collaborated, and this topic is not the first time that either of the associations or our individual industries have talked about this topic. Most recently, BIFMA introduced neurodiversity at our 360 Leadership Conference, where we met Tara Cunningham. That led to a further conversation that brought Tara here today, and she is joined now with an esteemed group of panelists that both Coy and I are extremely proud to have curated and put together for you today. As you know, the pods, personal pods as we might call them, are all over the shows. This specific innovative product category has just taken the market, and it's here to stay. And while it was originally conceived out of a need to address the challenges of open office, primarily acoustics and privacy, the unexpected benefit was the support it gives to a neurodiverse workforce. No matter where you may be on the spectrum, if you need an hour or a day, a pod will give you a retreat to help settle your mind. Because of that, BIFMA is writing and developing a new standard that will be published early in 2026. As an interior designer and architect, I'm also very proud to have been part of the ASID design retreat that took place a year or two ago. From that event, a lot of research was developed by ASID, and we're happy to have that presented here today with us.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you so much, Idra. We're so glad that you participated. It says greetings, everyone. I've never said greetings before, but hi, y'all. I'm from Savannah, so I don't know what greetings means, but greetings. y'all. ASID is excited to have Janet Rose share some of that research today in today's presentation. And what a great opportunity for Kay Sargent to connect the ASID research with that contributed by HOK, an industry collaborator to both of our organizations. It is an honor to be here with BIFMA as we gather to explore one of the most important frontiers in the workplace design, neuroinclusion. At ASID, this topic is top of mind for all of us, especially as we celebrate our 50th anniversary, a time that not only reflects but reimagines how design can better serve the spectrum of the human experience. Our 2025 Trends Outlook report identifies neurodiversity and cognitive wellness as critical areas of growth. Designers are increasingly being asked to create spaces that support focus and flexibility and inclusivity for every brain and for every body. We're also integrating these principles into upcoming initiatives that we have coming up soon. This fall, ASID will be launching the Healthy Home Certificate. This is a collaboration with the International Well Building Institute, providing residential designers with an actionable guidance around wellness, including mental and sensory well-being. And in partnership with the Chemical Insight Research Institute, ASID recently released 2 studies exploring how environmental conditions like heat affects indoor air quality and occupant health. These efforts reflect our commitment to evidence-based design and to equipping our designers with the knowledge to lead in this space. Today, you'll hear from voices that are doing just that. Kay Sargent will draw from her thought leadership at HOK. Janet Rose brings a deep background in trauma-informed design. And Tara Cunningham offers powerful insights on inclusive leadership and lived experience. We're proud to co-present today at this session, and we're even prouder to push this conversation forward. So thank you so much for being here.
There's no question that this is the right topic and this is the right time for this conversation, and we are so fortunate to have with us today a moderator well-versed in this subject, Dr. Tracy Brower. Dr. Brower is the Vice President of Workplace Insights at Steelcase and the author of The Secrets to Happiness at Work and Bring Work to Life. She studies happiness, work-life fulfillment, and the future of work. What a job. Tracy holds a PhD in sociology, a master's in management and organizational culture, and a master's of corporate real estate with a workplace specialization. Tracy has over 25 years' experience working with global clients to help them achieve their business goals. Her TED Talk has been viewed 8.1 million times, and among the many speaking engagements we could mention, her keynote that will be coming up at ASID's Gather Conference this August is a must-see. Please allow us to turn this over to Dr. Brower. You are in good hands. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being with us. And I am absolutely honored to be sitting next to Tara Cunningham, who is the CEO of Beyond Impact, Janet Roche, who is the CEO and co-founder of Trauma Informed Design Society, and Kay Sargent, who's a senior principal and director of thought leadership with HOK. So they are the super experts, and I am absolutely honored to be here with you. As I said, this is such a moment, right? We get to have this conversation. This conversation is front of mind. I want to start really, really briefly with 4 chapters of data. I'm such a data evidence kind of person, so I'm a little geeky that way, but I think it gives us a wonderful level set, you all, and then I'm going to have you all chime in significantly. Chapter 1. Neurodiversity and people who identify as neurodiverse is extraordinarily prevalent. If we look at both our data and third-party data, about 19% of the general population identifies as neurodivergent. However, if you ask the question a little bit differently and ask people, how often do you feel like your brain is working differently than others? 28% of people will say it happens usually or often. Chapter 1, this is prevalent. Chapter 2, this is a trend, not a blip. 30% of those who are under 30 identify as neurodivergent, and the #1 groups that self-identify and come forward for accommodation are Gen Z and Millennial, which tells us this will be an ongoing topic that we will need to address and will want to be proactive about. There is also, Chapter 3, a disconnect. 85% of people say accommodations for neurodiversity and design for neurodiversity are a really good idea for everybody. However, 60% of those who identify as neurodiverse say they don't want to come forward because they believe there's a stigma attached. That is the 3rd chapter. 4th chapter is that this is of critical importance. It's the right thing to do for people. But there's also some beautiful research from the Center for Talent Innovation that suggests that those who identify as neurodiverse bring hyperfocus, creativity, innovation, detail orientation, and it has business benefits as well in terms of attraction, retention, satisfaction, and all the good things. So this is the right thing to do for people, but it's also the right thing to do for lots of other reasons as well. So again, the good news is we get to have this conversation, and this is front and center in so many conversations lately. All right, so first question for our panel. I'll finally be quiet. And I want to start, if you don't mind, Tara, start with you on this, and then we'll have Kay jump in on this as well. What is neurodiversity, and how is it related to neuroinclusivity?
Okay, that is an enormous question that I can normally talk for about 3.5 hours on. So in 3 minutes, everybody think about drawing a house. Close your eyes, draw a house, right? Anybody think that anybody else pictured the same house? That's neurodiversity. We all walk through this world with our own ideas and our own experiences. And that's what neurodiversity is. Neurodivergence is where you're on the outside. And the thing with neurodivergence is it's not that you're missing something, it's that some things are brighter than others. So if we have a normal day and you fight with your husband and you go into work, are you really there? You might be present, but you're not there. By designing for a neurodivergent, neuroinclusive workplace, it will allow that person who's having a really bad day to still be able to function in a meaningful way. And that's the part of the productivity increase you get from understanding that we're all going through something. Nice. So it's a normal part of life. And we all pretend that we're one size fits all. So.
Brilliant. I love that it's brighter in some places and not others, especially based on what we're going through. Kay, how would you chime in on that.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that during COVID, the World Health Organization actually fundamentally changed the definition of a disability. And it used to be a physical condition that somebody had. But what's really risen in prominence over the last several years is the social model of disability. That's what's really holding people back is societal attitudes and barriers in the built environment. In other words, we're all different. We're kind of all unique. But if the built environment is supportive and organizations are welcoming and inclusive, then you're not really at a disadvantage. It's when there is a bias against you and or there's a barrier, that's what's really causing the disability. We can't do anything about people's impairments, but we absolutely can do something about the other two. And so what's really causing the problem? And so more and more the focus is on that social model of disability. And we really kind of lean into this three-legged stool model that you have to think about the operations, onboarding, training, education, awareness. Okay, that's important. But if you're just doing that and you're bringing people into an organization and you're not addressing the built environment, you're putting freshwater fish in salt water, and they're going to struggle to survive. If you're just dealing with the built environment and not the other two legs of the stool, again, you're going to have the same thing. And even if we address the operational side and the built environment side, we still are probably only get it about 80% right. And we are going to have to allow some kind of accommodations or whatever. And I'm going to argue that I actually believe over the last 40 years, our industry has been driving towards kind of this universal one-size-fits-all model. Anybody, who is the average person that we're designing for today, and what is the average thing they're doing? I defy anybody to tell me who that is. And I think we have grossly tried to oversimplify this, and what we have gotten today is one-size-fits-all.
Mm-hmm. Nice, so well said, it's so helpful. And really understanding kind of that comprehensive approach with the three-legged stool, really, really great. I want to talk a minute, if we can, about challenges. And Janet, let's start with you on this one. What are the challenges with those who identify as neurodivergent? And how do you think about the impacts of really great design?
Well, I think, my lens is a trauma-informed design approach, right? So it comes at it just a little bit differently than my other two lovely panelists. We understand that trauma is really very prevalent, and just by self-reporting, it's about 90% of everybody that has some sort of trauma. Now, trauma and also neurodivergency really, I think when we start to do more and more we're starting to kind of look at everything, putting it all together, that they kind of dovetail kind of nicely together because they support each other in many different ways. So one of the ways, I always talk about the fact that so much of the work that we do doesn't have to be expensive in order for you to get the work done, in order for you to reduce the stress levels. We talked about the three-prong approach and how that can really help. You have to look at operations, you have to look at the environment, you have to look at all these other different things to start helping to reduce those points. So I believe my trusty dusty slide is up behind me. And so one of the things in trauma-informed design we are really looking at, we go through SAMHSA, which is the Substance and Mental Health Abuse and Substance Administration, and one of their 6 key principles is trustworthiness and transparency. So when we design for neurodivergent crews, which is everybody, one of the things that really helps to reduce stress in the workplace, as you can see, like even just a community agreement in this diagram, which we got from the Architects for Public Benefit, thank you. And just to have that accountability where the workplace is saying to you, this is what we're expecting from you, so that you can also sit there and know what's expected of you. There's the transparency, right? And that creates the trustworthiness that really helps to reduce somebody's stress level. Because if you can think about it in terms like if you're not really knowing what you're supposed to be doing or how you're supposed to be working in this workspace, you're going to need to have some real kind of guidelines. And you know, they could be in somebody's office, they could be in everybody's office, they can be on panels. It's a very simple solution to help to reduce some of those stress levels.
Ah, makes so much sense. Tara, how would you join in on that?
Yes, and.
Yes, and.
Yes, and. And I just, disclosure, I did not try to match the carpet and the chair. I don't know. If I tried, I wouldn't have pulled it off. So again, a lot of things are simple, but there are many organizations that are like, we're going to change our culture. We're going to be more transparent. We're going to be more trustworthy. Our people are going to love it. And culture eats strategy for breakfast, full stop. So if you're in a place where things are haphazard, think about an onboarding when you were onboarded to your current job. Did you know where the good bathroom was?
Yep.
Did you know where do you go for quiet? Neurodivergent people will be found in stairwells because it's the only place that they can finally relax and try to regroup themselves. And with the Generation X coming in, that is a neuro-minority majority, which means that 52% of the kids that are coming out of college today are saying they are neurodivergent. Our workplaces need to be able to give people that good bathroom or the stairwell experience when they need it. And if you can find a way to create a product that allows that adjustability and that adaptability for every person at every moment of their life, you are going to take off. So when I was going through this building, this is my first NeoCon, the amount of pods I saw was incredible. The acoustic walls, the beautiful material that's sound absorbing. These are excellent, excellent. What's the next level? We know people do not want to return to work because they do not want to be in that open plan space. As a manager, how do you convince them? And there's neuroinclusive management techniques I can talk about, but in the workplace, imagine having an ability for your team to rock up the way they need to be for that project. Think about the productivity enhancements. Think about the trustworthiness, right? Sound, temperature, menopause right now. Woo! Honest to God. Somebody figure out how to fix the temperature in my chair. I mean, like seriously. The combined space, I saw a lovely, not too high, not too low space barriers, again, gorgeous. I've seen offices where people put books, making railings on their side so that they have privacy. Why don't you have the spaces that like lift up so that people can make the space the way they want it when they want it? Come on, guys, you're the designers. Give us the answers. This is what we're looking for. That's what JP Morgan Chase is looking for when they're trying to convince everybody. They just put out today, nobody wants to go back to work. They're all angry. Well, what if you created a space where it's super great to be there? They actually do want to be a part of the group. You can design that space. You can design the next thing, that's the next pod that will make work more inclusive for everyone.
Okay, I got to jump in here. As a designer on the panel, I got to jump in here. So we've done multiple research initiatives and studies, and I think there's a lot of misconceptions that are out there. One of them is that enclosed spaces are better than open spaces. More people are bothered by being in enclosed spaces than they are being in open spaces. Okay, just they are. That's what the research shows us. And a lot of people don't want to be in a small little box. Nope. They don't want to feel like they don't have airflow. They don't want to feel like they're on display. They can't move. They can't fidget. We have to be able to create open environments because I lived through the 80s. I'm telling you, we do not want to go back to private offices for everybody. No. And we do not want to go back to environments where everybody is jerry-rigging everything and it's a free-for-all. Okay, so we've got to create different zones. And I think the problem is that we've designed space like people are potted plants and that everything is supposed to move around them. The most flexible thing in any environment is the people. Get up and move. We need to create different zones for people so I don't have to adjust everything here. If I need more private, I can go to a space to do that. And in open environments, there's a lot of open environments that suck. And we as an industry have to own that, okay? We have this whole philosophy, and I'm going to tell you, we have put all of our research on workplace and neurodiversity together in the book that we just came out with because we are tired of having these conversations about people just, saying certain things. We have to address the 6 modalities of work. We have to create hyper and hypo versions for people that want different things, and then we need to spatially sequence it appropriately. And this is where 90% of open environments go bad, okay? 90% of open plans have a kit of parts that might have some variety. They probably don't have hyper and hypo. We got to improve on that. But this is where we go wrong. Tracy, I'm going to make you dinner. I'm going to make you a steak, some asparagus, some au gratin potatoes. I'm going to have a chocolate lava cake, and I'm going to have a glass of red wine. I'm hungry, by the way. But before I give this to you, I'm going to dump it into a blender, hit puree, pour it into the glass, and give it to you. There's always one person that would drink it. Who is it? Just okay. Would anybody in this room drink that? It's the same exact thing. Okay. What designers are doing is pureeing the workplace. We are just randomly taking that kit of parts, mixing it up together. It's the equivalent of taking your dining room table and putting it in your bedroom and wondering why you can't sleep when your kids are having dinner. We have got to do a better job of creating distinct zones. There should not be one lighting level. There should not be sound masking across the entire space. There should not be one color throughout everything. We have got to understand that this is more complex and we need to create distinct zones. And that's where we're going wrong. Open plan is not bad. The way we've been delivering it is bad. And we
Such
can
great
fix
points.
that.
Such great points. And we'll have the chance to unpack this even more. Kay, would you add anything about sort of the evidence-based principle level that should really be foundation to designing? Anything beyond what you've just shared in terms of those principles?
Yes.
I'm shocked.
I'll go for hours. I mean, we have clients, honestly, that will say, I don't like something. And if I were to be brutally honest, and I can be with certain clients, I'll say, I don't care what you like or don't like. That's why you have a house. Go do whatever you like at your house. You've hired me to do what works for you and your business. And every decision that we make as designers, light, color, pattern, texture, shape, form, mass, materiality, it all has an impact and matters. Nothing is random. And we need to design with intentionality. If you're designing a phone room so that someone who is hypersensitive can have a break and escape from that sensory assault, but then it's cool to make those trendy, right? Like, let's make them a bright color with a crazy pattern in it and a wild graphic in there. You've literally just short-circuited the person you've designed that space for. You've applied the principles and elements of design randomly without evidence in an unintentional way that is sabotaging what you're trying to achieve. We as designers, there is a science to what we do, and we have to lean into that. And designers have really good instincts and can get about 80% of it right, but we've got to lean into the evidence that we as an industry are collecting and say, what is working, what isn't, and understand why.
Exactly. So beautifully said. I think we were talking a little bit earlier about challenges and obstacles, and I think one of them can be a lack of common language or a belief that we have to get one right answer the first time and that we're not going to evolve over time. So to your point, the evidence that will drive a lot of that. Tara, I want to bring you in on this one as well in terms of what are those evidence-based principles that should be guiding some of our discussion?
Okay, so let's go to why you go to work. you have a manager and you have a team. You have the strategy of the company that you're all working towards, right? Can we agree to that? Okay. So the managers often say really badly, I need you to push the envelope out on it, I need it later, right? That means absolutely nothing to anybody. Neurotypicals will figure it out, they'll go to the water cooler, they'll figure out what they think they should be doing. Introverts, new people, first-geners, neurodivergents like myself will sit there at the desk going, what the heck do they need? And so by not using inclusive language, by not saying, I need this work done by this day at this time, blah, 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 and then have everybody work in strength-based pieces. So you can give me, a budget to work on. It'll take me 3.5 hours, but it would take Kay 2 minutes. Does it make sense to give me the budget? No. So as managers start to explain exactly what they need, how they need it, when they need it, and who's going to do what in the team, that pulls out productivity hugely. Now let's go into the spaces. So if you have beautiful sections where this is the loud, rambunctious, white-barred wall, here's our quiet space where we're going to be, doing contemplative work. The team then not only knows what they need to do, but they know where they need to be to do it in the most effective way. This is where productivity goes up. So you may have heard that if you hire neurodivergent people, productivity goes up 2 times profit, net profit. All of that is true, but it's not because the Audi is a superhuman. It's because management and the teams and the spaces that they're in become culturally safe and allow people to be their best at all times. Mm-hmm. And there's the magic.
Beautiful. So there's a huge cultural element. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
And it goes back to that 3-prong approach, making sure that everything is in there. And we talked about it a little bit earlier, just to do it with fidelity, right? To when you guys are going in there and you guys are looking to design, what you're really needing to do is making sure that you really have all the elements to put them into place, as opposed to just being like, well, this is the newest thing at NeoCon, so let's put that in. It looks great. So it's keeping everyone in your mindset when you're designing for them.
I think what you talked about, though, is you described the double empathy problem. And the double empathy problem is this notion that we all assume everybody is like us. So how many of you guys grew up on the golden rule? Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Everybody, how many of you guys did that? Okay, don't tell your mother I'm going to say this, but take that rule and throw it in the trash can. That assumes that everybody is just like you and they want what you want. Okay, we should be going by the platinum rule. Do unto others as they want to be done upon. Exactly. And one of the biggest problems right now, and for everybody in this audience, I want everybody to stare at me. You are not allowed to look at anybody you walked into this room with right now. Every single one of us is dealing with somebody who is driving us nuts, right? A mother, a son, it's amazing my son is alive today, a coworker, a spouse, somebody who just doesn't do it your way. They don't respond as quickly as you want them to. They write really long emails when you want a short sentence. They don't function the way you do. They don't do it as quickly as you do, et cetera. We all assume that everybody should function like we do. But I'm going to tell you, if they're driving you nuts, you're driving them nuts because they don't do it your way. And who's to say who's right? And what we need to understand is that we are all unique and different, and we have our different strengths. And understanding that and meeting people where they are is really important. For whoever it is that is driving you insane or nuts right now, try to unpack why and ask them how they function and what they need, and meet them where they are. Stop trying to force everybody to do it like you do.
The fundamentals of empathy, for sure. Yeah, there's some research that suggests as we learn more about neurodivergence and neurodiversity, that when we come through that, the majority of us, the vast majority, will actually be identifying as neurodivergent. So we all come at it from different points of view. I want to talk a minute about the ASID trends report and kind of come to you, Janet. There's amazing information in that report. If you haven't read it with a highlighter, Is that still a thing? Can we still read without an highlighter? And no, it's not still a thing. Well, however you like to read, because we all may do it differently.
Somebody else it might
We all
be.
do it differently.
How many of you guys have AI paraphrase it for you?
It's got some great information in it. So you read it how you do you. You do you. But Janet, talk to us a little bit about what do you see as one or two of the highlights in terms of the importance of design and designers? What are some of the highlights from that report?
Yeah, I mean, it was an amazing report, and ASID did a really fantastic job in putting all the trends together, and that was what stood out to me the most was page 42, in case you were all wondering. One of the things we talked a little bit about it was the nooks, right? Like that is a way for people who have neurodivergencies or trauma to find their little nooks, to find their places where they can escape and find that refuge. And so that's a really important piece. And then the other one is, and I think it's really important, one of the tenets that we've got in trauma-informed design and what we really believe in as part of our foundation is also the ability to play, right? And to have movement. We know when people move and have play, they really do better, both in their lives and also learning or what have you. You're more likely to, like if we came up with a game for this, you would probably more likely to be like, I understand what they're talking about when they said whatever. So, but those are two things. So there's really some really great opportunities for designers and office furniture designers to really start looking at how we could really kind of incorporate that. And sometimes even with just trauma, like just to have like a beanbag to throw across the room and onto like just a solid surface, like would do some good, right? It lets out a little bit of that aggression, right? So, so it has an opportunity for you to really kind of play that up and to help. What this really does is to help regulate yourself, and that's really what we want to do. We want people not to be the hyper or the hypo. We're looking for that window of tolerance right there, which allows us to really function well, right? So, and that's the important part. And so, as I thought a really great job with the Outlooks report.
Yeah, amazing. And Kay, you've done a ton of work on this as well. Anything you would add related to the ASID report?
Yeah, I think one of the things that they talk a lot about in that as well is biophilic design. Okay, and we all know this in this room, but a plant in the corner is not biophilia. And nowhere in nature is there a perfectly vertical. You know what I mean? Right. Nowhere in nature is there a perfectly vertical plant wall either. So all those people that do that and think they're really proud of themselves because they've done that, okay, I'm just going to say that's our version of that too. Again, but the other thing I would say is nowhere in nature is there a rectangular white box with strip lighting. And then we put people in it and we wonder why they don't feel comfortable, right? And so we need to really think about shapes and forms, biomorphic elements, fractals, patterns. We need to think about movement. We need to think about smells. All of those things that we've just kind of sanitized these environments, and then we wonder why we as humans don't feel comfortable in them. And I think that's a really big element that as designers, we need to start addressing that more comprehensively.
Absolutely. Makes sense. Yeah, I love the specificity and the elements of being targeted and providing variety and choice. There's a beautiful word picture that I especially like that looks at playground design. And it says, if we were going to design a playground so every single child could play, we would have nothing. Because every single child can't climb, every single child can't slide, every single child doesn't want to swing. And so it would be a nothing. However, if we design a playground with lots of different varieties so we can play, so we can exercise our kinesthetic preferences, so we can interact together in meaningful ways, we might even put a bench next to that playground equipment for the child who can't do a lot of it but can still hang out with their friends on the swing. And so I think that's a really nice word picture in terms of thinking about universality versus being really targeted and being specific about about what people need
Right.
so they can make some of those
May I
choices.
jump in here for a minute? I just did a podcast on inclusive playgrounds. So I have an inclusive playground. I don't have an inclusive playground podcast. That is misspoke. It's not all about the playgrounds. It's about everything. But we just did an episode on playgrounds. And one of the pieces that, so it's for Harper's Playgrounds. They're out in Seattle, or out west. And the gentleman who I interviewed, he has a daughter who has some serious disabilities, and she couldn't go out into the regular playground and play. So he started Harper's Playground in order to really kind of help her, but to help other kids, because it doesn't just, I guess it kind of wraps it up with the neurodivergency piece, which is first things first, like, you know, you go to those playgrounds with the wood chips on there and stuff like that. So you're like, you could kind of understand as designers, maybe this doesn't really work out for people who are in wheelchairs. But what about the people that have had some, even just a broken leg, right? Like that doesn't work for the people who have had a broken leg, right? It doesn't help for grandmas or grandpas who are taking their kids to the, you know, the playground. Like, and having that thoughtful process of, you know, the inclusion of it all. But the thing he said, the reason why I really wanted to jump in here, despite preaching the importance of inclusivity, is because he said it was giving his daughter a place of belonging.
Nice.
So I just got chills again. And it was such an important piece, right? It was giving her an opportunity to be with her peers and then to have that play and to, you know, we know all the executive functioning and all the stuff that is supposed to, you know, and it does help, but the place of belonging. Right. And I think that that's part and parcel of what we try to do in terms of neurodiversity within the workplace.
Absolutely. Yes, that place of belonging. So well said. We have talked a little bit already about going beyond sort of place, but anything else to add? Tara, I want to start with you on this one. Anything else to add in terms of cultural elements or policies or practices or norms that you think are really important in terms of fostering neuroinclusivity?
Okay, I'll just talk about, remember your first day at work. What do you wish you knew? Okay, acronyms, where to go, who to talk to, how to navigate the worlds. Don't sit in that chair, that belongs to so-and-so. All of those things. So if you look at the three-prong approach, if you're designing a space, design it so that the first time a person walks into that space, they understand it. They feel like they belong. Mm-hmm. That's how you need to design for that confusing first day of work.
Nice, nice. Janet, anything you would add in terms of those other issues that we need to address? Policies, practices, norms, culture, you name it.
All of it, but she's right about the first day. Like, it's such an important piece, you know. Like, and again, I guess it goes back to that trust and transparency, right? Like, we want to know. Like, you know, a lot of people don't even know. Like, it's been a while since I've been in an actual office that's not mine, and so I don't know. Do people actually have like policies, manuals anymore? Like, I'm assuming that they do.
Yeah,
right?
They do. Yeah.
Right, but does that include, to your point, like, don't sit in that chair? Where's the good bathroom?
That would be the hidden curriculum.
Well, those are the unwritten rules.
Those are the hidden
rules.
curriculum.
They're right, the hidden curriculum. But again, if it's understood, and maybe that's the stuff that can help, right? Like, it's the little tutorials and stuff like that that can kind of help with people with their first day, I guess. So, yeah.
I'm going to look at my colleagues out here, and I'm going to say that we need to change the way that we approach this. We cannot neurowash on this and pretend that, you know, everybody's an expert on this when they're really not. We need to do research.
Yep.
And we need to deeply understand what this is. When we were approached to write this book, we didn't want to do it because I wake up every day and I learn something different. Mm-hmm. And once you put it in a book, it's time-stamped. And we were very challenged because we had so much information we wanted to share. And we as a firm made an executive decision early on, Bill Helmuth, that this topic goes beyond a competitive advantage. There is a moral imperative. And we have literally gone to IWBI, everybody, and said, we'll give you everything we have if you bring the industry together and let us all work towards solutions together. Because if you go back to ADA, and we're at a very similar crossroads, if ADA didn't come out and instead every architectural firm and every manufacturer came up with their own version of it, we would be in a hot mess today. Yet that's where we kind of are.
Yep.
We need to come together and we need to put it all out there. And it might be the stupidest thing we've ever done, and I might regret this one day, but we put all of our research, everything we found, all of it in the book. And if we weren't sure about something we wanted to evolve, we put a QR code to it. So as Tracy calls me tomorrow and says, that list that you put in there, I don't agree with number 2, I just saw this research initiative, I can change it. Everybody has access to it. This transcends competitive advantage. And by the way, my competition isn't another design firm. My competition is design firms that aren't doing it well, and or artificial intelligence, or people that are using artificial intelligence that think we don't need to exist anymore as a profession because there's really no science to what we do. We're all just doing trends and what we like. There is science to what we do.
Absolutely.
And if we don't get together on this and come together as an industry and prove our worth, then we're going to be left in the dust and we're going to do more damage than we do good. And I don't know about anybody in this room, but that is not why I went into this profession. I believe in my soul that the spaces that we're designing can have a positive impact on people. But if we don't do it right, it's going to have the opposite. And that's a non-starter. So I beg everybody in this room to come together on this topic, put it out there, share it, and let's learn from each other, and let's advance and go forward together.
Right. We got it. I mean, we had a little conversation backstage about the use of fidelity in this and understanding the evidence. And you're absolutely right. The evidence is forever changing. So, you know, we wrote a book too, and we call it the first edition, not the, because we know it's going to change. It's going to change because with more research and more development and more understanding about using evidence-based design and having that kind of research is such an important piece. We just put in for a grant for Academy of Neuroscience for architecture, and we're going to be using biomarkers to talk about trauma-informed design and how to, test for people's heart rates for their heart rates and eye movements. We're going to be using eye motions as well. So among other different types of biomarkers to really kind of prove that this is the stuff that works. But again, back to your point, even though we're going to get all this work together, it's just going to be a pilot. At the end of the day, 5 years from now, it might be, it might have changed because it's constantly changing. I'm sorry to.
Well, and you and I had a great conversation backstage.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up.
Yeah, please.
No, this is so super exciting. So first of all, I would need to get out. The ADA is like getting a C in college. It's a C. Like, bravo, you have stairs. Okay? So let's start there, okay? The ADA, and right now they're going to start weakening all of it. And because the ADA was what everybody was going towards, the foundations were broken from the very beginning. So now we get to shore up our foundations. And this is where you guys are so pivotal right now. The world is in flux. You can literally rebuild what it means to work inclusively, to design so that it's all good, all right? Now, what we were talking about earlier is I'm a neurodiversity inclusion specialist, and I have 5 competitors that we all get together. We call ourselves the Snaps, and we share all of our knowledge because we know that we need about 1 million more of us in order to change workplace environments. So we trust each other, and we give each other, don't do this, I tried this works, go this way. And it gives us less of a competitive advantage, and we don't care because it makes the output better. And if companies start seeing the productivity rise, the increase in money, it makes them bring in more.
Right.
But there are so many cowboys out there. There are so many people that say they know this space, and they are harming this space. There are very few people that actually understand it, and nobody understands it all. Nobody understands it all. I've my lane, you've your lane, you've your lane, and if we're really smart, we all come together and we share our best practices, our knowledge, and then we're able to move this forward.
Yeah,
And
well
so-
said.
And I'm going to
well said.
respectively say, there's, in many conversations that we're having in the HR world and the operational world, they don't think designers should have a voice in this. What do we know, right? And I'm
nothing
going
in
to
the
say
built environment.
we actually are trained to understand how space impacts people. And a lived condition does not make you an expert. You can have cancer without being an expert on cancer, okay? A lived condition tells you a lot about yourself, but it doesn't necessarily make you an expert. And we have an expertise, you have an expertise. We need to come together because I don't want to do the operational side. That is not my expertise. I want to own that environmental and built environment all day long. Sorry. Sorry.
What did I do?
I want to own that part of it all day long, but you can't just solve this with one leg of the stool. So we have to reach across the aisle and respect that people in the occupational therapist, HR world, et cetera, there are partners in this as we go forward, and we got to own our part, and we are their partners going forward and have that mutual respect to come to real solutions.
Beautifully said, beautifully said. So we've got about 7 more minutes. We are going to absolutely take time for questions. So if we want to pop the QR code on the screen, go ahead and use the QR code, and then you can enter your questions. One thing I want to do is just look toward the future and think optimistically. No more than one sentence. There's so much we could say, right, with all the brilliance on the panel. One sentence. What are you most optimistic about as you think about the future and neuroinclusivity, Kay?
The stigmatism is falling away. This is becoming normalized, and many people are looking at this almost as a badge of honor and almost a hidden superpower that they have, and that we as designers need to understand we need to be designing intentionally and based on evidence.
Awesome, thank you. Janet, one sentence.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at all these nice faces in the audience, it's really I mean, where I've come from when I first started, we're doing much more of the trauma-informed design, which was around 2020. It's really just all it did was amp it up during the pandemic. But I went from talking to 3 people to talking to 5. And so to have this be more amplified by NeoCon, by IFMA and ASID and everybody else, I think really gives me a lot of great hope for the future. But we got a lot of work.
A lot of work to do.
Let us know if you want to help.
Awesome. Tara.
I said it earlier, the foundation is cracked. The ADA was never any good anyway. Offices don't work for everybody. Designing for all is a joke. So stop doing that.
All right, very good. So it's a prevalent issue. We know absolutely that this is a trend and not a blip. We know there are a lot of disconnects and a lot of challenges and a lot of barriers, but we have a wonderful, wonderful future in front of us and lots of payoff when we design with, not for, when we are intentional and when we come together as a moral imperative, to use your language, Kay. So awesome. Thank you for being here. And let's see what kinds of questions are coming up. So it looks like we have a first question. What do you say to people who say this is DEI repackaged as neurodiversity?
Can I
Go
jump
ahead.
in on
Okay,
this
Tara,
one?
go ahead.
Because, like, who said that? All right, so firstly,
Don't shoot the messenger.
firstly, only 5% of companies in America were doing neurodiversity inclusion. Only 5%, which is crazy. It is completely intersectional. So if you're neurodivergent, you can be Black, female, Jewish, and Muslim, and this and that, like you name it.
80 years old,
and you,
disabled, yeah.
yeah, it's
one of 10.
It traps everybody. So I would switch it around, and instead of saying it's diversity, equity, and inclusion, it's the actual, if you design for neuroinclusion, you're designing with everybody comes to this world in a different way. So it's not a repackaging of DEI. I wish neurodiversity was a part of DEI.
We actually say that there are 10 characteristics that make you a whole person, whether your cognitive functioning and sensory processing is one of those 10. So that intersectionality, we're just addressing a small part of this.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. There's also some research that 90% of people, whatever their differences, is invisible to the rest of us. So you never know what people are facing. All right, there's another really, really good question I want to make sure we get to. What is one design element that you suggest either avoiding or really suggesting in new design plans?
If you want to see me go flying monkey in the office, my colleagues are in the audience here, they will tell you, show me a plan with rows and rows of benching and the largest rectangular table you can shove into every conference room with the maximum number of chairs. Neither one of those things have worked for a really, really long time. Assuming that we are all exactly the same and having no unique differences will send me off the deep end every time.
Good one, good one. Janet, Tara, anything you want to add on that one?
Well, that sums it up.
All right. Okay, that's fair.
How do you define monkey?
How can a flying monkey? I mean, I'm not going to argue with the flying monkey, but I just maybe would add to help with that changes in terms of design is one of the things that we talk about in trauma is the ability to have choice and voice, right? Like, so we want to have that through the workforce as well. So that includes like maybe different seating options, maybe high seating, low seating, right? And again, seating for larger butts, right? Making sure that that's all very comfortable in order for people to, again, find some sort of belonging within that room.
Find a place for themselves.
I love
All right, another question, here we go. How do you see these inclusive principles moving beyond the workplace setting into the community? Ooh, good one.
One of the things that I am the most proud of is HOK. I have the honor and privilege of working for a firm that is multidisciplined, multi-sectored. This is being incorporated into healthcare, hospitality, sports and rec. Every airport we are designing right now is incorporating these principles. We are challenging our clients in every sector, trading floors, scientific labs, you name it, our teams are challenging our clients to go above and beyond because people don't just go to workplaces. We have to create the entire world that is more inclusive where everyone can thrive.
Nice.
Nice. On that? Yeah,
Just awesome.
Absolutely.
All right, we have some terrific resources available to you all. You saw the QR codes for each of us individually and for our organizations. There are also some terrific resources through BIFMA and through ASID as well. So with that, let me say thank you, thank you. This is the beginning of the dialogue, so really appreciate your time. And thank you.
Tracy, thank you.